Are you tired of getting defeated by Jad? Are you fed up of watching people complete the Inferno whilst you're standing outside getting bopped on the head, feeling like the noob that you really are? And do you want to transform from this to this?
Well then look no further, because I'm here to help you become a RuneScape master. Hi, I'm Woody, and today I'm going to be going over a tier list of different masteries with different bosses. Now, if you didn't know already, there are over 62 different pets you can get in the game, including skilling, PVM, and more to come. Every year or so, we get around about 5 to 8 pets from different parts of content, whether it be PVM, whether it be from raids, clues, or different other kinds of pets, including skilling. But along that journey comes the skills mastery. Going over the combat achievements, you can obtain combat achievements as you're going for different grinds with different PVM bosses. There are over 588 combat achievements, and there are more being added as we get new bosses entering the game. And as you participate in your combat achievements, you're able to receive rewards which greatly increase your game experience. And there are over 64 different sections for each boss of every combat achievement to be completed. But you're probably thinking to yourself, oh no, there's too much to look at and I don't know where I'm gonna start. Hey, you. Yeah, you come here. I've got a tier list to show you. Now, I've decided to make myself a boss tier list. So it's going to rank from S tier to A to B to C to D and to E. And this is the list of bosses I have to go through. Now, every single one of these bosses has combat achievements. I'm not going to be going through every single one in this video, but I will section off an amount so that you will have more for the next videos coming forward. Now, you're probably wondering where the raids pets from Chambers of Xeric, Theatre of Blood, and also Tomb of Mascus are. The reason why I haven't put these in is because I plan on making a separate video for them to talk about their combat masteries and their skill level. But for this one, I personally would rate all three of them into the S tier at the very, very top. But, as you can see, there won't be any raid bosses. So let's get into the first boss. So as you can see here, this video is going to be dedicated to Slayer bosses. Now, down below, we've got the Dagganoth Kings. We have Sarachnis, we have Kalphite Queen, we've also got ourselves the Grotesque Guardians, we've got the Abyssal Sire, Kraken, we've also got the new Slayer boss that has recently been released into the game, which is Araxxor, we have Cerberus, we have Thermonuclear Smoke Devil, we also have Hydra, and I've decided to include Vorkath into this. Now, I know Vorkath isn't based as a Slayer creature, but you can get Blue Dragon tasks quite easily, which is why I've included that. I've also included Kalphite Queen and Sarachnis because you can get Spider tasks quite quickly and easily, and you can also get Kalphite tasks very quickly and easily as well. It's also why I've included the Dagganoth Kings, because most people for Slayer tend to go and do those for Slayer, so it just makes sense to add these into this category. Now, I've just added this briefly just to kind of go over a little bit of summary, and then I'll go over the kill themselves. But with the Dagganoth Kings found beneath Waterbirth Island's dungeon, there's 13 combat achievements to unlock. The quickest access is requiring 85 agility with a shortcut, anti-poisons, healing weapons recommended for long trips, tanky armor recommended to take less damage, whether you take Justica, whether you take Bandos, or whether you take Darux. Also, praying mage, range, and melee is needed and necessary. So prioritizing mage pray is probably the most important. And the money per hour, including Rex at least anyway, is on average 2.3 mil an hour, if berserkering. Now, killing the Dagganoth Kings, if you were to go for a solo tribrid, you want to have at least 85 in all combat stats, especially with hit points as well. You definitely want 85 hit points, so that at least that way, if you need to take some damage, you're not going to die in one hit. Also on top of that as well, plus 74 prayer as well, so you can also use rigor if you have unlocked that prayer. If not, don't worry, you can still use Eagle Eye. Just make sure that you look over the wiki so that you can use the best weapon for the Dagganoth Kings. Now, I don't expect everybody to have the same gear as me with any of the videos that I do make, but if you wish to take part in doing any of this content as well, please do check out guides on these particular bosses. I'm doing a brief summary over the tier lists of them, so please do enjoy, and we'll get on with the video. So here what I'm doing is I'm taking the quickest route to get to the Dagganoth Kings, which is this shortcut, which requires 85 agility. How you get here is you take the Fremennik boat by using the Fremennik boots to sail onto the ship to then get all the way to the Waterbirth Island. Then you pray mage as soon as you climb down the ladder, pray range or melee to pray from these Dagganoths, and then you pray melee in front of these rock crabs. After that, there is a shortcut up here which requires either 81 or 82 agility. I'll have to check over it, do bear with me. But once you've gone through the cave entrance, you then pray range against these Dagganoths, and you climb down the second to last ladder. Once you climb down here, you then pray melee against the rock crabs or the rock lobsters, whichever ones you want to call them, and then you continue to run down, and the ladder is only around the corner. Ideally, what you want to do is once you reach the ladder, there is a hiding spot which is just behind it, but you can right click the ladder to peek to then see if there's any players inside. If it says there's adventurers, then you can go and climb behind the root, which is behind the ladder. Once you climb over, walk around the corner so you don't get attacked by the Dagganoths or the Wallasokis in the room. Drink your potions, and then you can also run into the cave. Once you've hopped worlds, obviously. When you do, run in praying mage, because in case the mages attack you, the mage does huge amounts of damage. You can tank the ranger, so it's fine. There's this little spot over here that I have marked where the melee can't actually reach you. So you can either stand on the tile I'm standing on, or one south of it. At this point, you can chill here until Dagganoth Rex is dead, and then go in and attack Supreme. Now with every one of these creatures, I'm going to rank them into 5 sections. 1 for skill level, 2 for the drop table, 3 for the combat tasks, 4 for the enjoyment of the boss itself, and 5 for pet rates. Now, the boss is very, very simple. All it requires you is praying mage, range, and melee, which is very, very, very simple. And all it requires is making sure that you're praying on time against the accorded boss. Now, there are some people that have obviously done this boss hundreds and hundreds of times and can literally do it with their eyes closed. Although, for some new people, they just want to attack Rex so they then eventually get themselves the Berserker Ring and never return. So, for the skill level, I'm going to label it easy/medium. For the drop table, on the other hand, it's between a medium/high amount of GP. Now, the combat tasks I personally have found were in about a medium category. But for this, I will say it's a medium/hard. Only due to 2 or 3 of the tasks being quite challenging. The KCs are very easy medium, but for example, there is one that requires throwing a battle axe and also killing all 3 in one go. Especially for somebody that's trying to learn these, it will take some time to get used to. So that's why I'm marking it in medium hard. Enjoyment is a definite yes. And the reason why I say this is because it's a very easy Slayer task once you get used to them. Because you're only praying 3 separate prayers, and the majority of the time, you'll kill them before they even have a chance to respawn. So once you've defeated all 3, then the next one will spawn, and you only have to worry about that one for the next 30 seconds. And then rinse and repeat. And finally, pet chance. Now, I know there's a few people out there that have gone extremely dry for 1 pet from the Dagganoth Kings, but have been very, very spooned for several of them. Now, I would say this would be a medium pet chance. Only reason being is because it's 1 out of 6,000 to get a pet from a singular one. But if you're doing a trio of all 3 of them, you then have a technically 1 in 2,000 chance because you are killing 3 Dagganoths within one go. So this is why I'm saying it's a medium for a pet chance. But overall, I think I give this boss a solid 8 out of 10, personally. I think it's brilliant. I think when you start getting used to it, it's very cozy, very relaxing, especially on Slayer task as well. The switches are very minimum. You don't have to do very much for switches. And you get passive money from being down here anyway. And when you start getting used to it, you take next to no damage. So it's all just prayer. So I actually really enjoy this boss. Also, I'm working on my way to 1,000 subscribers. So if you click the subscribe button and click the like button, I'd always appreciate it. Dagganoth is going to go into the A tier. But next, we're on to Sarachnis. Now, Sarachnis can be found in Core End in the Hosidius dungeon. It has 5 CAs you can unlock, with a quick access to Xeric's Talisman to then get to the Xeric's Glade, running to the dungeon and then cutting through the webs. Now, bringing a Rainier boot for web immunity and a slash spec weapon is highly recommended. Carols and Missouri for mage defense from the mini spiders that spawn at different percentage of health, and also praying range from afar and praying melee when next to the boss. The money per hour on average is around about 500k, so this boss is priority for its drops of its collection logs and more or less for getting used to praying switches. So what you want to do is you can either bring a Xeric's Talisman teleport to Xeric's Glade, or you can use a home teleport and run out of the portal from your POH from the Hosidius area and run north. I'm just going to run through all of this nice and quick just because it does take a while to run down there. But essentially, if you have the boots, you don't have to worry about cutting through the web. If not, you have to bring a slash weapon to then break through the web. You might find that you'll have to hop worlds a few times so you can try and find a free spot because you cannot enter a private instance. But once you eventually find that world, you're going to want to sip a super combat. Then you're going to want to pray range when you run in. Don't pray melee because you're never going to be next to the boss. It does attack with range from a distance, but it will attack with melee when you're attacking it next to it. Now, if you don't have a Rainier boots, then I would recommend bringing a Ring of Stone with you or the Easter Ring, because I think they both work as a stall mechanic. A stall mechanic allows you to move once being, for example, frozen, so that you don't get hit from a distance. So you could use that, essentially. So the skill level, I would say, for Sarachnis is incredibly easy. And the reason being is because you literally pray melee, and you don't need to click anywhere else. You pray melee and click the boss. That's how easy it is. The drop table, on the other hand, is low. And I say low, and I don't mean, like, as a joke. I mean seriously low. Like, we're talking... you won't even make enough for a bond in the space of 3 days for being here completely straight. So, very low on the drop table. The combat tasks are very easy as well, which is super nice. So this is a really good boss that you can kind of get used to for praying from range from being at a distance and then praying from melee when you're up close. The enjoyment of this boss isn't as fun when you get into it later doing hundreds and hundreds of kill count. The only enjoyment out of it is being able to kill the boss as quick as possible. And once you get into the rhythm of being able to kill the boss perfectly and being able to get different specs off and being able to use things like Thralls and Vengeance or Spellbook Swap if you want to start getting into it, then this is really good to then learn here. And finally, the pet chance. Now, for me, I got the pet at just under 100k C, so there's no way I can be a great judgment upon this, but it's a 1 in 3,000 chance of a pet. A lot of people I know have gone dry for this pet. I know a few people that have gone a few thousand for it, and I know a few people that have gotten a few hundred for it pet. So I'm going to say it's in the medium hard range. But apart from that, this boss is great for learning. With only 5 CAs to do, go for it. Now it is time for my least favourite boss, the Kalphite Queen. Now you'll slowly understand why I don't enjoy Kalphite, and why a lot of people also don't enjoy Kalphite. I don't think I've ever met one person that actually likes Kalphite. Apart from probably Will and probably a couple of others. Otherwise, yeah, so you have 5 CAs to unlock from Kalphite Lair while you're taking on the Kalphite Queen. You have quick access with a fairy ring, so BIQ, and it'll teleport you just outside the cave. Make sure to bring a rope with you and drink a stamina pot if you haven't completed the Elite Diaries for the Elite Desert. The best crush gear is recommended for this, and if not, then you can bring range only. But if you can bring crush, it would be fantastic. So best crush gear for P1 and range with blowpipe for P2. P1 and P2 basically being phase 1 and phase 2, because there's only 2 phases to this boss. Inquisitor And if not Inquisitor, Bandos. And if not Bandos, then Verax. And Blessed D'Hide as a switch. Then it will just remember when running into this cave, be prepared because it attacks with all 3 combat styles. So it attacks with mage, range, and melee. So be aware of it. So remember to tank hard, and if you've got lots of food with you, remember to eat up. And lastly, money per hour is about 550k to about 600k. Okay, so I'm just going to go over a base rundown of why it's so terrible. Getting to it is super, super cozy, but what I hate the most is... it's basically everything. For start, we'll just rank it, because going over it, you kind of just like, you basically face tank it, you stand under it, you wait a couple seconds and hit again. That's literally all it is. And as soon as it's gone down the first time, switch to your range gear and you do the exact same thing. But for this skill level, I don't know. You don't really need skill for it because you're going to get hit or you're going to tank it. It's a 50-50. So there's not really skill level. If there's skill level, it's beyond me. The drop table. Unless you want like consistent dragon chain bodies and consistent dragon two-handers, yeah, go for it. And if you want the pet, drive yourself insane, because that's the only thing you really ever want from here anyway, is the pet, so you never have to ever come back. The CAs, super simple. So, yeah, the combat tasks are, I'd say, medium, just because, obviously, you've got to pull off Venges, and, if you're an Iron Man, you need, like, a Verax flail to do the task. And if you're still quite low geared, then it will be a medium. So I'm going to keep it medium, I reckon. The enjoyment? Oh, no. I don't think I've ever met somebody who's ever turned around and said they enjoy Kalphite, because nobody enjoys this boss. I don't know one person enjoys this boss. I don't. That's a fact. And finally, the pet chance from here. The pet chance is a 1 in 3,000. Mind you, every kill takes about 2 minutes. About 2 minutes. And if you run out of food by the time you've killed the first one, guess what, buddy? You're running back to the bank and you're grabbing more food. Because you're not going to stand here and do another kill and hope for the best. No. The kills take way too long. The trip run back is way too long unless you've done the Elite Desert Diaries. And I don't see any enjoyment out of this boss. So what I would recommend to you is get the CAs done as soon as possible and never come back. If you want the pet, obviously, come back for the pet. That's realistically speaking. But the boss is just not enjoyable. You don't know what it's going to hit, and you just got to hope that you do high damage and you keep a bunch of food for the next kill. Because if you don't, well, back to the bank with you. Apart from that, I give this boss a solid 2 out of 10. Now, the next boss is Grotesque Guardians. Now, Grotesque Guardians are a lot easier than most Slayer bosses. They kind of introduce you into the mechanics and the basics of Slayer bossing in general. But we'll give it a rundown. So the Grotesque Guardians, also known as GGs, are found at the top of the Slayer Tower. They have 15 CAs that you can unlock from there. To get there, you would use the Eternal Slayer Ring or the Fairy Ring to Canifis, which is CKS on the ring. The next bit is getting there. You also have shortcuts as well. You've also got the rope shortcuts, which you can climb up, or the chain, but you need a certain agility level for it. So double check over it, because it could be quite useful to go back there and to and from to resupply or to get more KC. Dawn attacks with range. Dusk attacks with melee. But, suggestively, you can pray melee and you'll be perfectly fine. The range damage is next to minimum. But with Dawn, you have to attack her with range, and you have to attack Dusk with melee. So whatever they're praying against, then attack with the exact same thing. Fang, Nox Halley, and the Scythe are perfect for Dusk, and a Blowpipe would be best for Dawn. Pray melee and stand in front of Dawn. Minimum damage from range will come at you, so you will take minimum damage. But remember, there are requirements of 75 Slayer to access this as well, at least 90 combat and 43 prayer, and 70 prayer and 70 defense recommended, so you can use piety. But then also, the money per hour on average is around about 1.2 to 1.3 mil. That's why I've kind of crossed it out above. But you make some semi-decent money being here. You make good alch money, so you get lots of rune drops. And also some of the uniques are kind of interesting. Not all of them are used, and not all of them have purpose. But it's always nice to see a collection log, which is why I don't mind Grotesque Guardians. So here I have a fight with King Condor taking on the Grotesque Guardians. You can click his subscription in the description below, so you can go and subscribe to him. He's got some amazing content, do check him out. But the rundown of the fight, like I said, is very simplistic. It's very easy, and you can do exactly the same setup as he's done on his video for Grotesque Guardians. But here, where Dusk is attacking, you can pray range, you can pray melee, it doesn't really matter. But what Condor's doing here is a stand under technique. This is a technique you could do if you want to. All it means is basically trying to only get hit by range so you don't get hit by his melee. And essentially, the fight, again, is very, very basic. It's just as simple as waiting until Dusk disappears, then you take on... Dawn disappears, you take on Dusk, and you avoid the falling rocks from above. There's portals on the floor that heat up. Just try to stand 2 tiles away from them. And then, well, the rest is just as simple as killing them as quick as possible, really. There are also healing orbs that appear when Dawn returns. And then it's just as simple as finishing her off as soon as possible. So, what are the 5 sections I would rank for Grotesque Guardians? Well, the mechanics are simple. The rundown of the bosses do take a good, I'd say probably 50-60 KC, and then you've kind of got it in the bag. Once you've got around about that KC, things start to move fluently, and then you can kind of kill the bosses, you know, within quick and efficient time. So for skill level, I would say medium, and the reason why I'd say medium is because you want to make sure that you do want to get the kills, but then you don't want to miss anything. And once you've got it down, it then becomes extremely easy. But for a start, or to try and understand a base level for it, I'd keep it at medium. The drop table is, like I said, for it being 1.2 to 1.3 mil, I'm going to say the drop table is about medium as well. Because the drops aren't insane, it's not incredible, and the thing is, once you've done Grotesque Guardians after a while, it does start to bore you a little bit. Every kill count is around about 1:30 to about 1:45, depending on how quick you can kill these. There is a speed time CA, which I'll get into in a moment. But the drop table for, like I said, rune alchs earlier is fantastic, and the granite items, on the other hand, are okay, but you're not going to use them for anything, because you're going to have better gear over the granite any day. So we'll keep it at medium. The combat tasks... So there is one task. The one task I actually am struggling to get at the moment on my Iron Man as it is. And it's the 1:20. And it requires you to do a lot of mechanics, which is very, very expertise level if you don't have the gear that it requires. And sometimes people have had to actually wait until they've got on a scythe or even particular weapons to be able to do enough damage to speed through to hit that 1:20. So I'm going to say the combat tasks are, I personally say, when I first did them, they're hard. But once you start to get to know the bosses, it will become around about a medium, I would reckon. The enjoyment of this is like a yes and a sometimes. Like, when you're doing this like after a long time coming away from the game, it's enjoyable. But after you've done about probably maybe 25-30 KC, and it starts to be a bit repetitive and a bit the same, it does get a bit boring. And also having to re-gear all the time if you don't get supply drops like Saradome and Brews or any food, because they tend to drop them quite a lot. If you don't get any on a certain trip, it does make it a bore to have to run back. And if you're trying to enjoy CAs, this is one that you won't enjoy CAs doing. But otherwise, the pet chances is around about a 1 in 3,000, if I remember correctly. And a lot of people don't have this pet. So I'm definitely going to rate it a hard. So if I were to give it a total rating, I would probably give it a 7 at tops. Now I'm just going to go over quickly of a few bosses which preferably I don't want to get the task for just to do them. But briefly going over these, we'll start with Kraken. Kraken is a nice enjoyable boss. It's very, very chill, very AFK. You can do this on mobile while you're chilling at work, and all you have to do is literally throw a fishing explosive, and that is literally it. There is no skill to it, no nothing. The only things you would need are the collection logs for it and to get all of the CAs done. It's great for when you're AFKing Slayer. It's fantastic. It does the job you need it to do. I rate it as 7 out of 10 because the drops aren't incredible, but the combat tasks are easy and the pet chance is very, very kick back and relax. Cerberus makes some incredible money. Cerberus is fantastic. The only downfall to Cerberus is the amount of prayer that you lose to Cerberus. Now, with Cerberus, the fight initially is basically just a speed game. In the sense, you have 7 attacks, and within those 7 attacks, as long as the health doesn't decrease below 400 HP, you can then carry on attacking and try to kill Cerberus as quick as possible. So the skill level is medium. It's figuring out how many attacks it does, keeping on track every kill of how many attacks it does, so that you don't then make Cerberus a rue in some sense, basically. And then that way you don't have the ghosts come out to decrease your prayer, because you then have to pray accordingly to what the ghosts are doing. So that's why I say the skill level is medium, because if you don't mind doing it, learning the prayers that you're praying against is also very vital. I rate it as 6 out of 10 because hourly profit is 3.7 mil, which is fantastic. And the combat tasks are an easy / medium depending on which ones you are doing. And otherwise, the pet chances are very, very hard as well. So that's why I've given it 6 out of 10. The Abyssal Sire, I've never been a fan of it. Never enjoyed the Abyssal Sire. Lots of people I do know as well haven't even bothered doing the Abyssal Sire because grinding out unsireds are absolutely ridiculous. They are 1 in 100, but the thing is that's how you get the uniques. You have to get the unsired to then get the unique. You would then have to chase however many hundreds of kills for those however many unsired to then make sure that you get non-duplicates. And the problem is you don't know if you're going to get duplicate or not until you redeem that unsired into the pool. So that's why I've said the drop table is medium, because the skill level is easy. All you have to do is attack the 4 pools that are around the Abyssal Sire and then attack the boss, and then avoid its acid pools on the ground while also praying range. So it's pretty basic, it's pretty easy, and the requirements for it are just so slow. Getting 1 kill is about 3.5 to 4 minutes long each kill, and in all honesty, I just find it very slow paced, so I'm not a massive fan of it. And that's why I've given it a 4 out of 10, because also the enjoyment of it is just a no, and the pet chance is 50-50, really. You either get it or you don't get it. And finally, with Thermy, I did enjoy Thermy early game when I first ever did it, but the thing is, as KCs draw out longer and longer, the boss does get very boring because it just does one attack. There's no strategy, the CAs are simple, and the skill for it is very simple as well. Like, you can literally stand at the back of the room with Thermy frozen and kill it from a range. And then you get no damage taken to you and you just kill it. So I don't really see it really as a boss. It's not really boss-like at all. It kind of just like waddles there like a penguin, like just, you know, in the desert, for example. It's not meant to be there. So that's why I've rated it very easy for skill level. Drop table's medium because it does still make you roughly around 1.5 mil an hour, which, you know, could determine on what you get. The combat tasks are easy, the enjoyment is just not fun. It's just an AFK freezable task, and then the pet chance is a really tough one because I know some people that have unfortunately gone over 10,000 for that pet. So very similar to Kalphite Queen for that one. But these are the 4 I wanted to get quickly out of the way because they don't really have any enjoyment in them, I'll be completely honest with you. But I will move on to ones which are more enjoyable, and I will go over those right now. And here's a boss I tend to enjoy doing whenever I don't want to do any other boss. So Vorkath can be found on the island of Ungal after Dragon Slayer 2. There are 11 CAs you can unlock. The access you can get to for using it is with the water birth portal in your POH, or using Fremenic Boots 4. You can use Fremenic Boots 3, but you'll only get 1 teleport a day, so that's why I recommend Fremenic Boots 4. Using Dragonbane weapons is highly recommended, as they do the most amount of damage to Vorkath, the easiest, so highly recommend Dragon Hunter Lance, Dragon Hunter Crossbow. I haven't tried the Dragon Hunter Wand, so I have no idea what its effects are like, and I have no idea how powerful it is, but fingers crossed, it does do a good amount of damage, but if not, I would do some research, I'll do some looking up, but highly recommend Dragon Crossbow or Dragon Hunter Lance. Super anti-fires and anti-venoms and high-level food are highly recommended as well, because you will take a lot of damage if you're not wearing a anti-dragon shield, if you're only using normal anti-fires. Anti-venom, preferably because he attacks with a venom fire attack, and also because if you're standing in melee distance with a Dragon Hunter Lance, chances are if you get meleeed, you will probably get hit a 20 to a 30. So be aware of that. And the money per hour back in 2022 was around about 2.5 to 3 mil due to massive amounts of bots. But now, as of late 2024, now it's obviously 2025, but the money per hour now is 4 mil to 5 mil due to the superior bones being extremely expensive. So the recommended skills for Vorkath, depending on what it is you're training in, whether it be range or melee. If you're ranging, then you don't have to worry about being meleeed as well. So if you're ranging, you could be looking at ARE profit of 2.7 to 4 mil, but with meleeing, you could be looking at almost 5 mil. But recommended in stats of 80s to 90s and upwards. And if you're using range, then obviously having rigor is recommended. And likewise for melee, if you are using melee, you want to have piety recommended. Well, let's get into a rundown of like what I really think of Vorkath. I mean, it's like I said, I enjoy it because it's one of those you can just go to when you don't want to do anything else, because Vorkath is very straightforward, straight through, and once you start getting the first 10-20 kills, it becomes simple. Because most of its attacks is mage, and you're praying mage anyway. You get hit with the odd melee attack and the odd range attack. Just literally you just eat a bit of food and carry on, you carry on the fight. So again, it's a fun boss. I've never really had a complaint about it. As long as you've sipped an anti-fire and you've sipped a super combat and an anti-venom, your maximum worries is the fireballs that drop onto you, the acid that falls on top of you, and other than that, you just make sure that you keep in tick timing, so you don't get hit by his special fire attack. It's free. It's such a free kill, So the skill level I'm going to say for this is going to be an easy/medium. Yeah, I really can't see any problems with it, really. The drop table, on the other hand, high/insane, because some people have been extremely lucky and gotten themselves visages. They've got themselves loads of bones, which have just made them so much money. The combat tasks for them are in the middle, so they can be free, and some of them are extremely difficult. So I will say it's going to be a medium. The enjoyment from this, yes, and sometimes, because sometimes you don't want to always do this boss, of course. I don't think everyone does. But with the pet chance, the only problem with the pet is it's a 1 in 3,000. And I've seen some people go extremely dry for this one. Although I have seen a couple of people spoon from it. But for the pet, I would say it'd probably be in the medium, just full-on medium section. Yeah. Otherwise, the whole boss altogether, I think I'm going to rate it a 7.5 out of 10. Because, really, do you know what? No. I'm going to change it to an 8 out of 10. The boss is good. The boss is fun. Makes great money. And it's quite simplistic. Yeah. I'm glad with the 8 out of 10. Second to last, we have the Alchemical Hydra. One of my favourite bosses in the game. And Unfortunately, it took me around about 1700 KC to get the Dragon Hunter Lance, but that's just me getting unlucky. That doesn't mean necessarily if you take on this boss, you could probably get it in 100 kills. You never know. But the Alchemical Hydra is found inside the dungeons of Mount Kowloon. 12 CAs to unlock, accessed by the Fairy Ring below Mount Kowloon or the Elite Koren Diaries. If you can counter 3 for this boss, it's super easy. Like, you're not gonna have a problem if you can count 3 range attacks. It switches to 3 mage attacks, 3 range attacks, 3 mage attacks, repeat. That's literally the boss. And you run around a room and you take out its different phases while it attacks you with exactly the same phases. Its specials we'll get into, but otherwise, counter 3, change of prayer, that's it. Dragon Hunter Lance, Blowpipe, or Twisted Bow is recommended to kill this boss efficiently. Prayer pots and range pots are essential for supplies for this boss because you won't be needing a crazy amount of food as you get progressively better at killing this. And finally, the money per hour is around 4 mil. You'll be making some incredible GP. You'll be getting some incredible drops from this boss. It drops Mystic, it drops Rune, it drops Dragon, it drops Hydra Bones. It drops so much stuff, it's incredible. And the leather for the Ferocious Gloves is incredible, and the claw is incredible. All of it's incredible. Even the pieces for the ring can make you a good 2 to 3 mil. It's insane. This is why I love this boss. Now, what's also great about Hydra is, like I was saying, because it's so basic, you just have to follow the tile markers on the tile pack plugin. If you haven't got the tile pack plugin, I would look it up and download it, because it will suggest you these tiles which you can follow for each phase. I don't know how to explain it other than how simple it is. You run into the room and you pray either a range or a mage. And if you're getting hit by one of them, switch over to the other one until you've been hit by 3 attacks, and then rinse and repeat. And all you do is you follow the tile colours to the phase that it's in. That's literally it. And because with the weapons you're using, you're already doing enough damage to the boss. But there are guides out there which you can watch will give you more detail. Otherwise, personally, I think for this tier list, like, this is just A tier, nearly S tier. I probably would put it maybe at S tier. I'm thinking about it, but we'll find out. For the skill level, it's easy/medium because realistically, you want to get used to dragging it around the room, and once you've dragged it around the room, very easy. The drop table for it is insane. It's incredible. There is nothing else I can say by the drop table being any more insane than it already is. So 10 out of 10 insane for drop table. The combat tasks for it are medium. Like, realistically, you can get them very passively, very quickly once you get used to this boss within the first 30-40 kills. So the combat tasks are easy/medium, I would say. The enjoyment for this boss, when you do an entire task, it does take a while to do the task, but you will still enjoy it. Personally, I've found, at least for myself, but I know other people that enjoy doing this boss too, and it can be quite fun. And finally, for the pet chance. Now, I'm nearly 2,000 kills at this boss, and I haven't had the pet yet. And I only know a few people that have the pet, and a few people that have gone thousands of KC for the pet. So I'm going to say the pet is a medium/hard pet to get. But a pet worth grinding for. Because the best part is it metamorphoses. So it can change to all its different phases and all its different colours. Which is wicked. And I love it. So definitely worth a grind for. I'm going to give Alchemical Hydra, and this is being extremely generous here, I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. Because you make so much money from it. It's a boss which is very easy to grind and to get used to. I will never ever have any complaints against this boss. Definitely worth grinding. And finally is my favourite Slayer boss. I'm just going to say it's my favourite Slayer boss, and I'm going to run you through to it. So this is Araxxor. Now, Araxxor can be found south of Port Phasmatis, or Port Phantasmus, whichever you want to call it, / north of Darkmire. It has 12 CAs to unlock, Its access is by a teleport scroll / the Sepulchre crystal. I do apologize if I couldn't spell Sepulchre properly the first time. The boss is a crush style boss. So you can either use crush or you can use max range and a T-bow. That also works. Do remember to bring a Dragon Warhammer or an Elder Maul to spec on it first, and the damage will come through clearly. Inquisitors, Abyssal Bludgeon or Elder Maul also work too as the main style you should be using. Vengeance is recommended, and money per hour is looking upwards towards 5.8 to 6 million GP. And now the final review, the boss itself. This boss is S tier, and I'll explain why, right? For a start, it's just a big spider, right? You bop it. You walk around it, you bop it, right? You pray melee the entire time. Don't walk away from it, otherwise you get hit from a range / mage / typeless attack that you can't pray against, right? There's 3 different kinds of spiders. The white ones are the ones you have to venge against. And how it works is you basically wait for Araxxor to hit you, you click your venge, and you bop white spider immediately. That's all the white spiders. The green ones, you just range them. You shoot them from a distance with a heavy ballista, boom, done. Or you can use your bludgeon, which just takes it out instantly. And with the red spiders, it's a free grenade. So stand next to it, wait until it's close, and then run away 3 tiles to take 0 damage. If you run 2 tiles, you'll only take 7 damage, and it's fine. And then you just carry on with the boss. The enraged phase, the boss will attack, and you have to avoid its scree. But once you've got that down, it's super, super basic. Now, what am I ranking this in the 5 sections that I have dedicated it to? So for the skill level I'll give it medium. I'm not going to be too relaxed with it. It is a medium level boss because getting used to the mechanics does take a little while. But once you start getting used to it, it's going to be the quickest and best fight you're going to have. And the best part is it basically ranks around about the same as Hydra. So skill level at medium. The drop table, insane plus. Insane plus. There is so many drops on that table, which you will be so glad you received. And there is so much money you could be making here, which is incredible. The combat tasks, on the other hand, are medium. I'm going to give it medium because half of them are easy, but half of them are hard. So we're going to put them dead in the middle with easy / hard. So it's going to be a medium combat tasks. The enjoyment out of this spider is fun, right? All you got to do is run around and bop it, and that's literally it. If you want to deal with the demis, you can. If you kill the spider quick enough, you don't really have to deal with the things that are around you. You will take quite a bit of damage, but it's simple. It's very easy. So the enjoyment is, yes, it is fun. And finally, the pet chance. The nicest thing about this boss is that you can destroy it once you've received every unique you want from it. So once you want to start destroying it, you will get 2 times the chance of getting the pet. So instead of it being a 1 in 3,000, it halves it to 1 in 1,500 for a chance of the pet. So the pet chance, I'm going to mark as easy. And the only reason being is not necessarily because of RNG, but because of the number of the drop rate is low. I know lots of people that have had this pet before they've even hit 1000 KC. And half of them haven't even destroyed Araxxor, they've just looted Araxxor and got the pet passively. So for this boss as a total ranking, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. And I think for this Slayer tier ranking has been a really good one. I've really enjoyed it, and I think, do you know what? In my personal opinion at least, I think this is good, but everyone else will have their own opinions on every different boss. There might be some people that extremely love Thermy because it's very AFK and the money is very passive, so they might put it on an A tier. Or someone might turn around and say, I don't really like Hydra because I don't like the mechanics and there's too much to learn, so they'll put it in a D tier. But this is realistically from a level where I'm comfortable with these bosses and I've taken the time to learn them and received the drops from them, and what they've kind of given to me, and what I think about them as a group level rather than just one thing I think about them. I think about every aspect behind every boss. So I'm happy with what I've got so far for Slayer. But there are way more that I need to add onto this board. But I hope that you might be able to agree with this one. So that's all the Slayer bosses taken care of. We now have the rest of the bosses to then look over and look into as well. All of these bosses do drop certain things, and some of them give you good drops, bad drops. Some of them are fun, some of them aren't fun. But that is to come into another video. But for now, that is one of several videos complete. And that brings us to the end of this video and the end of the Slayer bosses. So thank you everybody so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you've gotten this far, please do feel free to subscribe to the video. Also like the video, that also helps a lot as well. And feel free to leave a comment on what you think your favorite Slayer boss is, or at least what you think you get the most profit from. I'd be really interested to hear. Also, some feedback on the video. I'd be also very, very glad to hear about that too. But yeah, I'm excited to carry on with this series. So I would like to see what everybody thinks of it. And if you do have any questions, feel free to let me know. The Discord is also linked down below. If any links or anything has, doesn't seem to be working, do let me know in the comments below as well. And apart from that, take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one.